I am a fighting man. I am not a paper pusher. In Harm's Way wasn't just a World War II epic. It was a bruised reflection of Hollywood's dying golden age and the war scars its stars tried to hide. Behind the polished uniforms lay chaos. A lead actor nearly drowned. A real storm wrecked a $1 million set. John Wayne's ego clashed with Otto Preminger's iron grip. These are 20 weird facts about In Harm's Way, the film that nearly sank its own battleship. Fact number 20. John Wayne hated Otto Preminger from the first day. The director's brutal control style clashed with Wayne's swaggering independence. Preminger shouted orders like a general, while Wayne refused to take direction from anyone. Crew members said the air on set felt like a battlefield. Preminger would shoot 20 takes just to break an actor's spirit. Wayne once muttered that Preminger wasn't fit to command a rowboat. The tension bled into their scenes together. Ironically, the same defiance that made Wayne impossible to direct gave his performance its authority. What audiences saw as calm command was barely contained fury. Two titans fought for control, and only the camera won. Fact number 19. The opening Pearl Harbor attack was filmed using a mix of real naval footage and dangerous practical explosions. No digital trickery existed. Pyrotechnics experts detonated charges in real water near full-size ship models. The concussions were so strong they cracked camera lenses. One stuntman was hurled 20 feet into the air when a blast went off too early. Otto Preminger refused to cut. He demanded realism no matter the risk. Even Navy advisors were stunned at how far the production went. The result was terrifying authenticity. Flames rolled over the ocean. Smoke darkened the horizon. For a brief moment, the war returned and the crew could feel it. Fact number 18. Kirk Douglas almost walked off the film after learning his character rapes a nurse. He argued that audiences would never forgive him. Preminger told him bluntly to grow up and act. The role was designed to expose the dark side of military masculinity. Douglas hated it but performed with cold precision. When the movie premiered, audiences gasped at his violence. He later called it one of his most uncomfortable experiences on screen. That single scene nearly derailed his reputation. Yet critics praised his raw intensity. It was not heroism, it was rot beneath the uniform, and it made the movie unforgettable. Fact number 17. Otto Preminger shot the film in black and white deliberately, even though color dominated the decade. He believed black and white gave moral gravity. The studio begged for color to boost overseas sales, but Preminger refused. He said war was not colorful. Cinematographer Loyal Griggs used deep contrast lighting to evoke documentary realism. The choice gave the film its somber tone and isolated feel. It looked old-fashioned even in 1965, but that was the point. While others romanticized war, Preminger drained it of glamour. It was not nostalgia, it was mourning in monochrome. Fact number 16. The U.S. Navy supported the production, but only after heavy script censorship. Admirals feared the depiction of officers as flawed or corrupt. Preminger fought back. He wanted complexity, not propaganda. In one memo, he wrote that honesty would serve the Navy better than lies. After weeks of argument, the Navy relented but demanded that certain lines be removed. Even then, the collaboration remained tense. Ships were loaned for shooting, but under strict supervision. Sailors whispered that they were being used as extras in a film too dark for recruitment. Still, the cooperation gave the film its haunting authenticity. Fact number 15. John Wayne was battling lung cancer during production, though he kept it hidden from most of the crew. The Duke was in visible pain but refused to miss a single day on set. Otto Preminger noticed his exhaustion and demanded he use a stand-in for certain scenes. Wayne flatly refused, saying that his audience expected him to finish what he started. During one of the storm sequences, Wayne's health faltered so badly that he collapsed in his trailer between takes. He was 58 but looked older, weathered by years of filming westerns and war epics. Yet when the camera rolled, he came alive again. His performance carries a weary authority that no makeup could fake. Every breath, every glare is a man wrestling both the enemy and his own failing body. That authenticity gave his Admiral Tory a gravitas that transcended acting. Fact number 14. Preminger's reputation as a tyrant wasn't exaggerated. He screamed at crew members, publicly humiliated actors, and fired anyone who questioned him. One assistant director quit mid-scene after Preminger hurled a prop chair across the set. Kirk Douglas called him a dictator. Patricia Neal admitted she went home crying most nights, yet Preminger's control had a twisted purpose. He believed fear created focus and discipline. The irony was that the chaos he provoked made the performances more raw. Wayne's defiance, Douglas's rage, Neil's fragility, all emerged from that pressure cooker. What looked like command on screen was born out of misery behind it. Even the extras dreaded call time. But when the footage returned from the lab, everyone had to admit, Preminger's madness worked. He turned real emotional exhaustion into cinematic realism. It was method directing by fire. Fact number 13. Patricia Neal's casting was a gamble. She was recovering from a devastating series of strokes that had nearly ended her career. Preminger took a risk hiring her against studio advice. During filming, Neal struggled with lines and facial control, yet her resilience astonished everyone. John Wayne personally adjusted his pacing to give her breathing room. In quiet scenes, her trembling wasn't acting. It was her body fighting to perform. Critics later praised her courage, calling her presence the film's emotional anchor. She later said that shooting In Harm's Way was her therapy. Each take was proof that she was still alive. Her scenes carry haunting fragility and grace born not from artifice, but from survival itself. For Neal, it wasn't a comeback, it was resurrection captured on film. Few knew they were watching a woman literally fight to reclaim her life through her craft. Fact number 12. The massive naval battle scenes were filmed using an enormous tank built on the Paramount lot. It was filled with thousands of gallons of dyed water to mimic the Pacific. Technicians used miniature battleships rigged with explosives to recreate torpedo strikes and bomb hits. The explosions were so violent that several miniatures were destroyed before the cameras could even roll. Otto Preminger demanded multiple takes, and the special effects team rebuilt models overnight. One cameraman fainted from fumes during a take when the pyrotechnic smoke filled the hangar. Despite the chaos, the results were stunning. The miniatures looked real enough to fool Navy veterans in test screenings. That craftsmanship gave the film its sweeping realism years before digital effects existed. It wasn't just spectacle, it was the art of illusion achieved through grit, danger, and gallons of oily smoke. Fact number 11. Preminger's relationship with the studio collapsed halfway through editing. Paramount executives panicked after early test screenings reported the film as too bleak, too long, and too cynical. They demanded that Preminger cut nearly 40 minutes, including several character subplots. Preminger refused and threatened to pull his name from the project. The standoff lasted weeks. In the end, he trimmed only 20 minutes under protest. The deleted scenes reportedly showed darker portrayals of military command and moral collapse. Though they never resurfaced, surviving notes suggest a far more tragic tone. Critics later argued that the shorter cut still carried Preminger's defiance intact. He didn't make a patriotic war story. He made an autopsy of leadership under pressure. That tension between art and studio interference defined the film's legacy, a masterpiece born from compromise but never surrender. Go ahead and like and subscribe because the next 10 facts reveal the darkest secrets of how this film nearly destroyed friendships, careers, and lives behind the camera. Fact number 10. The storm sequence near the end of the film became one of the most dangerous shoots of John Wayne's entire career. Otto Preminger insisted on filming it during a real Pacific storm off the coast of Hawaii instead of using studio water tanks. Waves slammed against the barge carrying cast and crew drenching equipment and nearly capsizing a camera crane. Wayne and the stunt team were tied down with safety ropes as 50-foot waves crashed over the set. The sound recordist lost his gear when saltwater flooded the power units. For 3 days, the crew battled the ocean and exhaustion. When the footage was finally screened, everyone went silent. The camera had captured real chaos, real fear, and real endurance. Wayne's expression of grim command wasn't performance, it was survival. That sequence gave the movie its immortal realism and cost the crew bruises, nightmares, and near drownings that would haunt them long after the shoot ended. Fact number 9. When Otto Preminger chose to cast his own son Eric in a small role, it infuriated everyone from producers to fellow actors. Eric Preminger was inexperienced and visibly uncomfortable under his father's command. Otto shouted at him mercilessly during takes, humiliating him in front of the crew. The younger Preminger stumbled over dialogue and nearly quit twice. John Wayne privately told him to walk off set, but Eric stayed out of fear of disappointing his father. The strange dynamic created a tense energy around the entire production. Observers said the set felt less like a movie and more like a military tribunal where Otto was judge and executioner. Ironically, Eric's awkward presence mirrored the movie's theme of damaged leadership and paternal failure. His scenes may be small, but they carry an eerie authenticity because the pain on his face was not acting, it was real. Fact number 8. The film's title sequence became an accidental masterpiece. Designer Saul Bass was originally unavailable, so Paramount hired an unknown assistant to mimic his style. The substitute crafted an opening montage using paper cutouts of ships and torpedoes layered over a dark ocean backdrop. When Bass finally saw the test reel, he offered to revise it himself for free simply because he admired the attempt. The result blended his signature minimalist design with the assistant's raw collage style, creating one of the most haunting openings of the decade. The rhythmic waves and stark shapes were later cited as influencing dozens of naval dramas. Preminger was thrilled, calling it a painting in motion. Ironically, the assistant who started the sequence never received screen credit, yet his fingerprints shaped one of the film's most unforgettable elements, a hypnotic visual overture that set the tone before the first explosion was ever heard. Fact number 7. Patricia Neal's tragic fate shadowed the movie's release. Shortly after filming ended, she suffered another series of strokes while pregnant with her 5th child. Doctors gave her little chance of survival, but she defied the odds again. When the film premiered, Neal was in recovery, unable to attend. Critics hailed her performance as heroic, even prophetic considering what came after. Her scenes with John Wayne took on new meaning for audiences who now saw her as a symbol of endurance against cruelty, both physical and emotional. The studio initially considered recasting her part with another actress, but Wayne refused, saying that no one could replicate her quiet strength. He was right. Her presence haunts every frame like a ghost that refuses to fade. The audience didn't just see a nurse, they saw a woman fighting for her life twice, once on film and once in reality. Fact number 6. The final scene where Admiral Tory faces his own moral reckoning was rewritten 3 times. In the original script, he dies of his injuries aboard the ship, but Otto Preminger changed it after a tense meeting with John Wayne. Wayne argued that the Admiral's survival gave meaning to all the chaos before it. Preminger disagreed, wanting the ending to stay tragic and ambiguous. The compromise was subtle but powerful. Tory lives, yet his victory feels hollow. His surviving the war doesn't bring redemption, only reflection. On set, Wayne filmed the moment with silent exhaustion, as if all the wars in his life had caught up to him. Some crew members claimed they saw tears in his eyes after the final take. That rare vulnerability became one of Wayne's most human performances ever caught on film. It wasn't heroism, it was surrender to time itself. Fact number 5. The scale of production for In Harm's Way was staggering even by 1960s standards. Otto Preminger commanded a fleet of real naval vessels borrowed from the U.S. Navy, along with hundreds of enlisted men serving as extras. The logistics were a nightmare. Ships had to be repositioned constantly to match camera angles and weather patterns. Each misstep cost thousands of dollars. The Hawaiian shoot ballooned the budget far beyond projections, leading Paramount executives to call it a gamble disguised as patriotism. Preminger, undeterred, operated like a real admiral, issuing orders through loudspeakers and demanding perfect formations. Crew members joked that it felt like being drafted again. The scale gave the film its grand visual authority, yet also nearly bankrupted its backers. Every ocean shot was a symphony of precision, chaos, and exhaustion. It wasn't simply filmmaking, it was naval warfare, conducted with cameras instead of guns. Fact number 4. One of the most controversial choices Otto Preminger made was to show American officers committing moral and personal failures, something rarely seen in war films of that era. Critics accused him of defaming the Navy. Veterans wrote angry letters to Paramount. But Preminger insisted that war reveals human weakness more than heroism. He fought to keep scenes showing drunkenness, infidelity, and cowardice intact. Studio executives feared backlash from military audiences, yet test screenings proved otherwise. Many veterans quietly praised the honesty, saying it reflected what really happened during the chaos of command. By shattering the myth of spotless officers, Preminger dragged the war genre into a new age of realism. The film's gritty morality was years ahead of its time, paving the way for darker, more reflective war stories that would dominate the 70s. It was not treason, it was truth spoken through celluloid. Fact number 3. During post-production, Otto Preminger supervised the editing with obsessive precision. He demanded that no single shot last less than 3 seconds or more than 12. His mathematical approach drove the editors mad. They nicknamed him the stopwatch tyrant. He personally timed every dissolve and musical cue. When composer Jerry Goldsmith delivered his score, Preminger re-edited sequences to fit the rhythm of the drums instead of vice versa. It was an unheard-of reversal of creative order. Goldsmith admired the boldness, even though it meant weeks of extra work. The result was a perfectly synchronized rhythm between music and movement. Every explosion, every glance felt deliberate and controlled. The movie became a visual symphony of discipline. Ironic, given how chaotic the set had been. Preminger believed precision was its own poetry, and in this film he carved it with the ruthlessness of a general measuring victory in frames. Fact number 2. When the film premiered in April 1965, it faced a divided critical reception. Some praised its moral complexity and sprawling narrative, while others dismissed it as cold and overlong. But veterans embraced it quietly. They recognized the fatigue in John Wayne's eyes and the realism in the battle sequences. Younger audiences were less forgiving. By the mid-60s, anti-war sentiment was rising, and grand military dramas felt outdated. Yet time reversed that judgment. In Harm's Way slowly gained respect as one of the last truly epic World War II dramas made, before Vietnam changed the tone of war cinema forever. Modern critics call it Otto Preminger's most misunderstood work. It doesn't celebrate war, it mourns it. The film's faded monochrome now feels prophetic, a farewell to the myth of noble conflict. History caught up with its message even if its first audience didn't. Fact number 1. The film's legacy grew quietly over decades. What began as a difficult shoot transformed into a monument of endurance both on and off screen. John Wayne would later cite it as the last time he felt physically capable of leading a large-scale action film. Patricia Neal credited it with saving her spirit even as her body failed. For Otto Preminger, it stood as proof that discipline could shape chaos into art. He never apologized for the suffering he caused on set, believing it necessary for greatness. When historians revisit the film, they find more than explosions. They find a record of pain, courage, and obsession etched into every frame. In Harm's Way was not just about survival in battle, it was about survival in creation itself. The war ended, but the wounds it left in those who made it never truly healed. Roast bonus fact. Here's the haunting twist that connects fiction and fate. Brandon DeWilde, the young actor who played Ensign Powell, was only 22 during filming and full of promise. Just 2 years later, he was killed in a tragic car crash on a Colorado highway. His death mirrored his character's sudden fate in the film. A young man lost before his prime. John Wayne was devastated and reportedly kept DeWilde's photo on his desk for years afterward. The tragedy gave In Harm's Way an eerie immortality. Every time audiences watch that final battle, they're unknowingly witnessing a farewell. The film became his accidental epitaph, a reminder that life and art sometimes collide in ways too cruel to comprehend. The ocean claimed the fictional crew, but fate claimed one of its real ones. In Harm's Way began as a war movie and ended as a confession. It revealed the cost of pride, the fragility of heroism, and the exhaustion behind command. What Otto Preminger created wasn't propaganda, it was penance. John Wayne gave one of his last truly human performances. Patricia Neal embodied resilience itself. Every storm, every flame, every silence spoke of pain disguised as discipline. The legacy endures because the truth it told still burns. If you learned something new from this deep dive, go ahead and subscribe, and tell us which hidden classic should march into the spotlight next. Until then, stay curious, stay brave, and never go down without a fight.